Hello, this time we're going to look at stretching the big muscles of our legs. So that's the quads at the front here, it's the hamstrings at the back, and it's the gastrocnemius down into the calf, gastrocnemius and soleus. These are really big muscles. They're the muscles that carry us around, let us bend down to the floor, come back up again. And because they're big muscles, they do get tight because we're using them all the time. If you're sitting a lot, if you're driving, if you're playing sport, especially things like cycling will tighten up the hamstrings. They get tight with just the day-to-day things that we're doing. And when muscles get tight, A, they're easier to damage, it's much easier to tear them, and B, it pulls joints out of line. And when your joints are pulled out of line, either because one muscle is tight compared to the one on the opposite side, or because a part of that muscle is tight, then you will get aches and pains in your joints. So a lot of the patients that I see who have achy hips or knees or ankles, it's because there's an imbalance in the muscle. And that can be quite easily sorted out if you stretch. But of course, we always leave stretching and think that, we've got to rush on to something else. But concentrating on stretching and doing a little bit of it each day is a really, really useful thing to do, and it's a great way to self-treat. So with these big muscles, we've got to hold the stretch for at least a minute. And posture is really important. There's no point trying to stretch them if we're not doing it straight, if something is out of alignment. So as we go through these stretches, you're going to always make sure that you're rooted with your feet onto the floor and that your head's pulling up to the sky, nice long spine, and that things are as straight and as balanced as they can be. And that you keep coming back to be aware of that. Okay, so let's start stretching these quads first. So you're going to do this in standing. You're going to stand on the right leg first, and we're going to stretch the left quad. Is the first one on the side we're going to stretch. So you're going to take your foot up behind you, you're going to hold on to your toes, keep yourself really nice and steady. Now feel your feet rooted, that foot that you're standing on, the right foot rooted onto the ground. Pull up straight, top of the head nice and straight. Get your knees aligned next to each other. You don't want to be too far forward, you don't want to be out to the side like this because it's going to be an uneven stretch. And then push your hips forward. So you're going to feel that stretch down the front of your hip here and all the way across your knee. The quads are a two-joint muscle. So you've got to stretch them from the front of the hip and across the front of the knee. And we're holding that now for a minute. So as you get into that stretch, push your hips a little bit forward. Keep yourself nice and straight. And keep gently pulling that heel back towards your backside. These, all muscles, if you want to stretch them out, they react better to a slow stretch. So if you see people bouncing when they're stretching, that's actually going to tighten the muscle up. There's two different stretch receptors in your tendons. And we want to get at the one that reacts to a slow stretch, which allows the muscle to lengthen. If you bounce on a muscle or you jerk on it, it will actually tighten up because it's the other stretch receptor that you're stimulating. So keep nice and straight as you stretch. And then come down again slowly and have a bit of a move around, balance up again. Give that leg a bit of a shake out, great for getting the circulation moving as well. Feel your feet rooting, just check your posture, acknowledge what's changed. Okay, so we're going to stretch the right leg this time. So I'm going to do this from the side so you can see it from a different angle. Start nice and straight, feet rooted. Hold on to the back of the chair. Get your posture really good, nice and aligned here, not out to the side, not forward, but nice and straight. Pull up with your head, push the hips forward and stretch into that for a minute. Now you can add another stretch or a bit of balance in. You can just take your hand away if you want to do the stretch and really stress on your balance, but only do that if you know you can do the two things at the same time. You can also take this hand up to the other side and really elongate the whole of your trunk as well. So you're doing two things at once, but be sure you're doing a good stretch and everything's staying nice and aligned. But as you get more used to doing the stretch and you can get your heel right up against your behind, these things become easier. Really stretch up. And each time you do it, try and get a little bit more stretch. Keep holding on, keep a nice balance. So at the beginning you might not be able to get your heel anywhere near your backside, but if you do it a little bit each day, perhaps a couple of times a day, slowly, slowly that will change. Muscles always do stretch out. Okay, a few more seconds to go. Keep pushing right up until the last moment with that stretch. Good. And then come down again, and once again have a bit of a shake off. Circle your hips round. Feel everything connecting again, because all our muscles function together. We're stretching them individually, but we need to join them up with the rest of the body. Good, okay, have a bit of a bounce out. Now, next we're going to stretch these calf muscles down here. So the best way to stretch these is on a step if you have one. If you haven't got a step, you can use a block or a solid box or a couple of books. But you need something that you can get the ball of your foot on and then drop your heels down. I'm going to move that right out of the way. Okay, so we're going to stand on the step with the balls of your feet. So just behind your toes. Get yourself again nice and balanced first. Pull up from the top of your head, feel your core engage. So you'll nicely, a little bit push forward the hip, not too far because your core will stop coming in, but you need that nicely engaged. And then just drop the heels right down. And again, we're holding this for a minute. Drop your heels down towards the floor and you will feel that stretch. Push your knees back as far as you can. Really straighten up, push a little bit forward with the hips and you'll feel that stretch from the back of your knees all the way down into your heels. And as you go into the stretch, just keep sinking a little bit further. Push it a little bit more, use your body weight just to sink down. But remember, slowly, the slower you stretch into it, the more those muscles are going to elongate. You don't want to go into anything quickly because you're going to stimulate the wrong stretch receptor. So we're holding this for a minute, doing both legs at the same time. Keep dropping that body weight down as you go into the stretch. Dropping the heels right down. Hold on for another 5 seconds or so. Good, and then come out of the stretch, push up on your toes, and again, come off. Just let everything settle a bit, kick your feet out a bit, just give it a bit of a bounce, and feel everything connecting and that connection back with the ground. Okay, so to stretch the hamstrings, we're going to do that in lying. And what ideally you need is a door frame. I'm using this as my door frame. You need somewhere where you can put your leg up alongside something solid. It could be a door frame, it could be the side back of the sofa, could even be a kitchen table or a worktop or something like that. And have the other leg straight. You'll see it in a moment. Now you will see people trying to stretch hamstrings in other ways. Some people you'll see trying to stretch like this. Now that does a little bit, but the thing is that the hamstrings start up in your backside here and they go down to the top of just below your knee, the top of your calf. So you've got to be able to completely bend the hip up at your hip and keep the knee straight. So you're not going to fully stretch the hamstring doing that sort of thing. You can do it, often in yoga you'll see people doing it sitting on the floor and bending forward to touch toes. Now that's a better way to get the stretch, but it tends to put quite a lot of strain on your lower back and it's harder to really push into it. The easiest thing to do is to lie down on your back because that protects your back. So I'm going to take my shoes off. That will lie down. So come down onto the floor here. I always like to come down on hands and knees and then onto the shoulder because that protects your back. Have a cushion to put your head on because the more comfortable you are, the more you relax, the better that stretch is going to be. Now you want to move along so that your backside is right up against the door frame or whatever you're using to stretch. Turn over on your back and put the leg that you're stretching up the door frame. And the other leg needs to be straight. So you can really get into this stretch. I want to get a little bit closer if I can. There we go. And all you're going to do is relax, because the more you relax as you stretch, the easier it will be for those muscles to open out. You can put one hand on your knee and try to push it as straight as you can. and you're going to pull your toes up towards your nose. And again, we're going to hold this for a minute. So just gently working into that nice long slow stretch. And whilst you're doing it, just try to relax as much as you can. And you should feel that stretch back of the leg, all the way up into the top of the thigh and right down below the knee into the top of your calf. And if you can't get into this position to begin with, you can't get this close to the door frame, start a little bit away from it, but keep your knees straight and then gradually just work your, each time as it gets a bit straighter, your knee, and a bit easier, a bit more flexible, just wriggle a little bit closer to the frame each time until you can do it. All these stretches just need, day by day, your muscles will get longer. Okay, we're coming up to a minute. Good, and then slide your leg down. Now, so long as you've got no problems with your hips and you haven't had a hip replacement and they don't want you to flex too far, you can now just take your leg up to your chest the opposite way and just give it a bit of a stretch the other way. Good, now we're just going to swap over. If you're using a door, obviously you're going to have to walk round, but here I can just swap over because I've got a handy pillar. And you're just going to do exactly the same thing, but with the other leg. So you can see this is a really relaxed way to stretch the hamstrings out. Put the leg you're not stretching out straight, so you can feel this stretch going right the way across. And then get that knee as straight as you possibly can and pull the toes up towards you. And again, we're holding for a minute. And make sure the rest of you stays nice and relaxed. And hold it nice and steady. Each time pushing a little bit on the knee, pulling those toes up towards your nose. And just hold on to that stretch for about halfway through. And this one. A nice stretch, this. Keep pushing on the knee. If you just work slowly into the stretches, as I say, things do change. Good, okay, come back out again. And then once I've done the stretches, I always just like to lie a little bit flat, let everything relax. Just feel the ground support you. Stretch right out, elongate the whole body. It's just nice to relax, have a deep breath if you want to. Let that tension go, move your feet up and down, your hands. And just acknowledge what your body feels like now, just observe it. Good, and then we're going to come out of that and back into standing, roll back onto your side. Always look after your back, come back up onto your knees and then up from there. That's great, okay, so have a little bit of a shake out again. Just observe now how you feel. As I said, it's nice to acknowledge what's changed, have a bit of a stretch, connect everything together, a little bit of a hip circle round. And these are really easy stretches. You can do them all in a row like that. You can work on ones that you find particularly difficult, but if you do them a little bit, once or twice a day, things will change. And as things change, your body will start to feel more comfortable.